There's no pressure. So I'm Poppy. I'm based in the UK at the Environmental Data Service. I work in the atmosphere and climate bit of it. Monica is my colleague who also works within the data center realm, but she's on the marine side of things. Jen works with me and my team as can't even remember your job title anymore, Jen. What is it? Project manager, operations manager type stuff, delivery things.
Yeah,
Um,
straight ahead of
Fab, thanks, John. And Carl works on the geological side of things as head of analysis and design. So we've all been working over the last couple of years on various different projects, trying to understand user needs and what people want to get out of our data services, and in our instance, the environmental domains. So it's something that we've been thinking about, something that we've potentially been struggling with, and we want to see if there's interest in uh, opening up the discussions that we've been having more broadly. So um, that's a bit of an introduction. So to start with, we're just going to do a little bit of kind of warm up and understanding who's in the room. So there's some polls on the mirror board. I am very hopeful that if you click on an option of a poll, it will then allow you to vote. Hopefully everyone can vote on it if you're in the board. Jen, maybe can you reshare the link again in the chat just in case anyone joined right at the end? But hopefully people should be able to, yeah, vote on some of the initial polls. So we're just going to do these ones at the start. So we've got this first one which says what best describes your role. The second one is how do you engage with users? The third one is about how often do you engage with users directly? And then the fourth one is about what you're hoping to get out of this session. So then hopefully we know that we're going to be telling you the things that you're hoping for. And then there's a little question at the bottom, just as if you drop a post-it note down there to say what domain research area you sit within. Um, Amazing, thank you. I knew there would be loads of post-it notes under what describes your role best because everyone's got so many different types of roles. I was half contemplating not putting it in as a poll, but I think it's good to see the variety of what everyone's up to. And please shout if you can't get onto the mirror board if you're struggling or anything like that. We can give you a hand in the chat. Amazing, cool. So we've got loads of data stewards, loads of people that say that other. Um, One user researcher, I'm going to guess that's you, Carl, maybe, potentially. If not you, you've not voted. Someone else is a user researcher. Amazing. Okay. And we got a researcher, great. And there's lots of different ways that people are engaging with users. So yeah, meetings and conferences I thought would be quite high. Brilliant. Love it. Thank you. So I'm going to stop chatting for a minute so you can all focus on filling things in, especially some text in this, what you're hoping to get out of the session. So if you just write your answer in at the bottom, it should then appear. And all of these polls are anonymous as well, so put whatever you want in, as long as it's kind. Just going to stop sharing so you don't get confused. Where you're meant to be clicking. Even things are still appearing, so I will just continue to chat quietly in the background whilst the last few people are adding things. But it's looking great. Thank you everyone for joining in with us. Um, someone's added an extra post-it note for how often do you engage directly with users, and they've said daily. Amazing. You are top of the class, better than me. Right. Okay, what time are we on? 10 minutes. Got another few minutes, then we can stick on this. This is great. So I'm just going to reshare again, so then I can just chat us through the board over the next couple of minutes whilst we've got a few more. So, as yeah, anticipated, lots of extra roles that people have put in. So a big old variety, which I think is to be expected. The next one's about how do you engage with users. So again, quite a broad split. Um, Lots of meetings, conferences, personal messaging, and emails. Training events is quite high. That's nice. Governance groups, interesting. There's some other ones. And yeah, as expected, lots of cross domain. So I won't dwell on that because I think we know we're from lots of different places, and this is quite a good domain agnostic topic where we're all interested in working out how to talk to our users. Um, and we don't always know who they are, which Carl has got some interesting insights on how he's done that in the recent past. Okay, and then how often do you engage directly with users? Weekly? Great. That's really positive, isn't it? I think when I was looking at this, I was thinking, oh, I think I'd choose like monthly or occasionally. But actually, when you do think about your help desks and your emails and things that you send, you are engaging more directly, more frequently. I guess another interesting question would be how often are we doing dedicated user research where we're going out and actually trying to find um, user needs? Okay, so then what are you hoping to get out of this session? Ideas of how to better engage with users, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? But we shall point you in the direction of some things that we've done, so we can definitely do that. Perspectives from peers, yeah, hopefully we should get that by the end of this because there's 30 plus of us on the call, which is great. I think I was meant to say a next edge in user support to not be the 100th trainer or interviewer my user community sees. Yes, survey fatigue and interview fatigue is very real, and I strongly suspect, especially within our specific domains, we often ask them very similar things from multiple different locations, and I think that's one of the things that we're quite interested in looking at within the environmental domain. How can we share some of the findings and the research that we've got between ourselves, so then A, we're not having to duplicate things, and B, we're not having to be the 100th person that's asked the same question. Learn about different service models, pros and cons, lessons learned, things we should not do. I'm sure we've got some things we can cover about that. Ideas for real co-creation design processes. Yeah, we've got some of those on our toolkit, so we can show you through those. And I want to say we're definitely like not complete experts on this. I think Carla's probably got the most experience and has been working in this area with his team for the longest, but Monica will tell you, but basically, with all of the different data centers, we're now trying to work together on this across the different environmental domains. So we're trying to share that knowledge that people like Carl's team have got and see how we can learn from each other. Use cases and lessons learned. Yep. How to avoid biases in community setup and how to reach audiences who are not already in demand of data management training. Yeah, interesting. How others have addressed needs we haven't figured out how to address yet. Yep, those little golden nuggets. And tips on improving user engagement. Cool. Loads of things. Hopefully, we should touch upon some of these, and hopefully, this is just the beginning of this discussion. So I'm going to wrap up this little warm-up session. I think it's really great to see all of these different perspectives and where everyone's from. So thank you for doing that. If you haven't had a chance to finish it, feel free to continue. The board will be open after the session as well, so you can keep adding to things. So if you shift yourself further over on the board, you'll be able to see the next frame is about the presentation. So Monica is going to share screen in a minute and she'll go through these slides, but I just wanted to show you that if you've got any questions throughout the presentation or any thoughts or comments or things that you'd like to explore more, feel free to stick a post-it note near the slide that is of interest, and yeah, we can go through that. So yeah, I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and then hand over to Monica to go through. I promise you it's not death by PowerPoint. It's only about 10 slides, so we'll go through quick.
Thank you, Poppy. And yes, as Poppy says, I will keep this very brief because it's great to see how engaging everyone is being so far. This is just a bit of a background as to some of the stuff we've been working on, who we are, and just some ideas to sort of start stimulating the conversation for our further interactive exercise that we'll do after this. So can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Um, yep. So I won't change slides. There we go. Okay. So the first three slides, I'm really not going to go into in much detail. They're just sort of to float the topic so we can start thinking about all of these areas. So when we go into the more interactive session, it's sort of on our minds. But first of all, understanding user needs. Why do we actually need to do this? User-centered design means building things people will actually use, not something we hope or think that they might use. To do this, we really need to identify real problems before we put solutions out there. We need to ensure that any assumptions that we've made are actually valid and true requirements for our users and our actual pain points, not just ones that we think that they might be. By involving users from the very start of a project, we inherently build stakeholder buy-in, which is only a good thing, and it helps us define success criteria that matters to actual users. So how do we identify users? This is possibly one of the most difficult parts of the process. Again, I'm not going to go into much detail, but some of the questions we can start to ask ourselves are sort of, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Who is this going to actually impact? Where do we want to be going in the future? Has this been done before elsewhere? So can we take lessons learned instead of sort of just redoing the same sort of work that's already been solved? And through these questions, we can hope to sort of really drill down and understand the people that this is going to impact, and then therefore find out the users that we need to be speaking to and interacting with. There's loads of different approaches for identifying user needs. As you can see in the graphic here, there's sort of a difference between what people might say and think versus what they actually feel deep down. And there are different methods to sort of drill down into that. So a survey could potentially be a bit surface level and a bit limiting with the responses that you'll get, especially if they're already defined responses. I'm not saying surveys are bad. I'm just saying it's one different type of method versus, say, co-design, where you're actually like sitting down and solving a problem with other people. So just to go back a bit and set the scene of who we actually are, as Poppy mentioned, we all work within the NERC UKRI Environmental Data Service. So the Environmental Data Service is made up of 5 different data centers, and we are the national data centers for environmental data within the UK. We're really experts in lots of things, data management specifically, but also software and development, user experience and service design, project management, and communications and engagement with the wider community. And as Poppy mentioned, we are integrating more than we have in the past. So we're taking 5 separate data centers and sort of merging them into one overarching data service. And as you can imagine, that's quite a tricky thing to be able to achieve successfully. So we're really wanting to look at how we can do that and also help our users or the users of the environmental data service through this process. So through a project that we worked on over the last couple of years, we've been able to identify some real challenges with understanding user needs within the environmental data service. They're outlined here. So we have ineffective sharing of learning, engagement with peers, and conflicting priorities, whether those priorities are within the data centers themselves or coming from funders. Lack of time and resource. Building user engagement into projects is resource intensive and it's not often done. And we have difficulty engaging with our users and stakeholders. So for whatever reason, there are multiple barriers with actually engaging with our users, and we need to try and break through some of those barriers. So we've set up some actions to try and solve these, including fostering a more collaborative environment and build a network for sharing challenges and successes. Really operationalizing our findings, so not just putting out a white paper that's never really thought about again. We really want to actually embed user-centered approaches in all of our strategies, and explore different methods for how we can make this work with increasing pressure from funding. And lastly, ensure there's unrestricted access to all of our project documents and resources to promote really transparent collaboration and reduce duplication across different projects. So one of the ways we've really tried to do this is through our co-creation toolkit, which I think Poppy mentioned at the very beginning. So this is a collection of information with resources about best practice, user experience resources, persona templates, interview guides, and including some case studies where user-centered design was particularly successful within the EDS. So please do have a look at this. It has a lot of really, really valuable resources, and please do get in touch if you're interested in collaborating on this. We'd really like to expand the toolkit and include as much resource as possible within this for the community to use. So some things we've been working on currently. I talked about the EDS sort of forming one centralized data service. So we're really looking at the roadmap of the EDS. So we're currently working on a project that's reviewing best practice of federated roadmaps and specifically how users are considered within those roadmaps. We're looking at community building and federated teams and the types of users of federated environmental services. And we're hoping to sort of learn and use the process of developing these roadmaps and ways of working as examples for other federated communities beyond just the environmental sphere. So one of the ways we're actually practically doing this is we have engaged with all of the organizations that you can see the logos of on the right-hand side. We've identified 8 categories that make up a successful federated roadmap. And we've done this through user interviews and looking at other organizations' roadmaps, and sort of looking at what's good, what we think maybe isn't as good, seeing some best practices, and then we're going to try and share what can be adopted by other road mapping exercises, and importantly, what to avoid. And we are also looking at federated teams and how they work together. So specifically within the EDS, we have lots of teams working together between the data centers, but then also in forums like this. So within the UK and beyond, we all have different skill sets and expertise, but it's often really difficult to nail down who you actually need to go to talk to about one specific thing. So we've been experimenting with how to do this, and on the left-hand side, you can see lots of bubbles, and essentially you can click on, through the software, you can click on any of these areas and it'll expand and tell you a bit more about the activity as well as all of the names of people who are experts in that activity. So you can go into it and really find, who can I talk to about performing a gap analysis, or who can I speak to about content creation. So we're trialing that within our project and then hopefully seeing if we can roll it out further across the ES. So what's next? All of these challenges with understanding user needs is universal. And we thought it would be a really good area for the RDA community to explore because I would imagine we're all facing similar challenges in this sphere. So we'd really love to learn how we can work together better, how we can share our learnings, how do we reduce that duplication of effort, um, and yeah, hear from other people with similar challenges, similar successes, everything like that. So that's it. I will hand back over to Poppy to go back into the exciting interactive exercise and no more slides.
Amazing. Thanks, Monica. So we've probably got about 10 minutes where we can go through any kind of general questions about what Monica has just presented, or if it's all clear, then we can jump straight into some of the activities where we're hoping to understand a bit more about what your experiences are and what your challenges are. So I'm just going to share my screen again so you can follow me where I am on the mirror board. Um, can you see it? Hopefully. Yes, got a thumbs up. Cool. Okay, so yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to add your questions in the post-it notes. If you don't worry. So the next few frames of the next one, two, three kind of mini activities, I'm calling them, we thought we could do in breakout groups. But I thought it would be good for everyone to vote on whether they want to stay in breakout, if they want to stay in plenary, if they want to go in breakouts, because we don't mind either way. So yeah, if you could vote on this poll, if you've got a strong opinion on one or the other, then that would be great because I can easily set us up some breakout groups, or I can easily keep talking at you whilst you all add to the mirror board. But I know sometimes it feels a bit intimidating when there's 30 people in a group to speak out loud. So yeah, happy to do smaller groups if people prefer. Um, we've only got 11 votes at the moment, so I'll wait for a few more before looking at the results. Maybe if I vote, but then I don't want to skew it. I won't vote until the end so I can see it. I wonder if I can stay there. Cool. But yeah, if you don't have a strong opinion either way, then that's also fine. So I'll just leave it another little bit for you to vote here. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to use the raise hand or chuck it in the chat or in the mirror board. And that's fine. All people are already voting and adding post-it notes. You guys are eager. Love it. Okay, I'm gonna click on breakout rooms and see. Ooh, people have said plenary. Fantastic. We'll stay in plenary then. Um, thank you, everyone. That is fine. Um, so this next activity, because it looks like we don't have any questions, so we hopefully gave a really clear presentation, or we've completely lost you. I'm going to go for the first one that it was clear. So this one is just a little activity to try and understand the kinds of activities that you are familiar with or you have experience with in terms of trying to understand user needs. So many of you have already found it, but we have got a poll on the left-hand side, which is asking which activities do you have experience with. If you've got other, yes, you can add post-it notes, so that's great. And then there's just a couple of little prompt questions over here. So how are you and your colleagues exploring user needs? Is this done by you personally in your role? Is it done by someone else? Is there someone with a specific user researcher role? So like people in Carl's team, they have that's their specific dedicated focus. Whereas in my team, it's more kind of tagged on to the side of my day job, and it's built into a whole general list of things that I do. So yeah, just chuck some thoughts in here, and then I'll talk through them, talk at you. But yeah, please feel free to add your thoughts if anyone has any verbally as well, or if you see anything that you think is particularly interesting in the board that you'd like us to explore further, then that would be great too. And then once you've added some things up here, we've also got a bit of a table below where you can say maybe some specific method that you've used, who was responsible for doing that, what worked well, what doesn't work well, is anything missing in what you're doing that you think you'd like to explore more within the RDA community or learn from other people? And same with the where would you like help? Is there anything specific that you'd like to um, pick the brains of people here about? And you don't have to fill in every single column of this table. If you've just got something where you'd like some help with, just feel free to chuck something in there. That's fine too. Okay, I'm gonna set a timer and be quiet for a bit, otherwise I'll just keep blabbering in your ear and you won't be able to focus. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then remind myself how to set a little timer, and I'll set a timer and we'll come back to it and look at it in a sec. I can see a wave. Hello, if you've just joined. We are currently going
I
through
just
a
thought I'd put
Miro
my
board.
camera on because it's nice to
Okay,
hide.
I thought that you just joined and you were thinking, what on earth are we doing? But
No,
if
no,
you've been
no.
here, then that's
It's
fine.
solidarity with the people who are showing their
Thank
face.
you.
Yeah,
Well, there's no pressure either way. I don't mind. I'm well versed in talking into the ether about things that
yeah, you're doing a
are
great
hopefully
job.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Great. Some people have found that you can also give like a little thumbs up or a plus sign to other post-it notes. So if you agree with something or if you disagree with something, you can do a thumbs down. So yeah, feel free to do that as well, so we can get a bit of a picture. And I think the idea of after this, we will summarize all of these thoughts on this board and see where we're going next. Timer just went off on me here. I don't know if it went off in everyone else's too, but it did. Cool. It still seems to be quite a few things being added, so I'm tempted to add another minute, and then maybe if we go through that um after that. So I'll just do another minute, and then we'll have a little look at it. Mm, okay. I'm actually gonna put Carl on the spot potentially and say, has there been anything in the board that has jumped out at you that you wanted to have a discussion about? Because I'm sure there's lots of things that you think, oh, that's interesting. If there's not, then I can do it. But I just feel like we've
I think
heard my voice.
can you hear me? I've
Yeah, I can.
changed my
Yeah,
connection. Okay.
yeah, you're fine.
Um, I think the main observation is there's a lot of knowledgeable people doing a lot of the stuff that we would advocate. It looks
Mm,
like it, you know, it's being done in different ways, which is really encouraging. The one that's caught my eye that I wouldn't mind somebody explaining a little is on the methods used. The top left sticky says we run incubators to help people get started with our services.
mm.
Yeah, I'm quite intrigued by what incubators means in this
I
context,
was intrigued by that one too.
yeah.
So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you wrote that one.
So it was me. Hi, I'm Nedja, everybody, and thanks for this really interesting
Nigel.
BoF. It's great. Hi. Um, yeah, so I'm coming from the German landscape where there's a very large, wonderful national infrastructure of many different communities and disciplines building many different tools and services for across the board, really, for researchers. We're building my particular project, kind of horizontal cross-cutting services, and we're building them from scratch with the service teams. And one of the things they've built in from the start is this concept that I've already seen, start from scratch involving your users. And so the teams themselves put out calls to get communities on board, like a safe pilot zone to start to adopt bits of their technical infrastructure early with these communities. And we have a dashboard where you can see what kind of incubators are up and running and what discipline is using it. We're running into okay, how do we actually coordinate all these incubators? It's a lot for the service teams to do, but it really gives you a safe zone to see, will they adopt it? What are their issues and pain points and challenges as a service develops in its early days? So, but I have to say it wasn't our idea, and I did find out it's actually something that Géant, the e-infrastructure, it initiated apparently. I don't know if anyone here is from Géant or knows anything about it, so it wasn't our idea, but it's just been, I think, really good.
It's worked well for you.
Yes.
Interesting.
No, really good. And yeah, the only other thing really that comes to mind is just to sort of slightly, if this isn't jumping the gun, highlight what has been mentioned by Monica and Poppy already, which is the co-creation toolkit. Because I think some of the priorities that have been mentioned, I'm not saying we've got the perfect answers, but we have got some experience with some of them. So I'll just very briefly share screen and highlight a few bits of the content that are there. I'm not very used to Zoom. Where is share screen?
It's a square with an arrow in it. It's the
Yeah,
bottom
I see
middle.
it. I see it.
You see it?
Okay.
Is it letting you or is it not? Or do you want me to do
No,
it?
no, no, no,
Okay.
no. If you navigate to the toolkit, and
It's probably because you're not set up as host, but that's okay. I can do that. I can do that and share screen, and you can tell me where to click.
yeah, perfect. So the
Yeah,
easiest
I'll
way
zoom
to
in a little
find
bit.
this, if you don't have a link already, is just in Google. If you type in EDS and co-creation toolkit, it tends to be at the top. So, and it's also in GitHub. So if you, for any reason, wanted to take what you see here and adapt it to your own community, then it's all open. It's all available to hack around and change as you see fit. So yeah, if you could go on to case studies. So we've got these cards, and they relate to different examples of where we've tried different things. So a few people have said they've experiencing difficulty finding low frequency users or unknown users. So that's what this one tells a story of something we've tried, and it was reasonably successful. I'm not saying it's perfect, but we have been pushed by our funder to find people outside of our known network. So what we did was we went through historical user research, and we've repurposed it because most of the research was done to answer a specific question. And the reports that summarize those findings are not overly useful because they're tailored towards that one question or those small number of questions. What I do find really useful is the raw transcripts, obviously because of GDPR in this country. We are not going to do that without anonymizing the data. So the data is anonymized, but we can ask new questions of legacy user research. So through that, we managed to identify the personas we were interested in, which is that first section. And then what we did is we went into things like LinkedIn and other public platforms, and we basically hunted down people who matched the personas that we believed were our target audience. And from that, we had a long list of candidates. And then we moved on to step 3, which was to screen the participants, to triage them and figure out exactly of these candidates, which do we most want to contact, reach out. I'd say we got about 50% success on who responded. And then when we arranged interviews, there was a further drop off where people just couldn't make it. But we could always go back to the initial list and go again if necessary. So that was one approach. Incentivizing people is another. So we have also, I've not got a case study, but we have employed groups that are specialists in running focus groups, and they have literally used money to incentivize participants, and they do the whole recruitment for us and found people that we would never have necessarily contemplated reaching out to. So that's that one. If you just scroll up again, Poppy, I won't talk for too long, but so there's a whole bunch of case studies. If you just, I'll pick one more on the case studies list. The Devon Design Sprint, I really enjoyed. This was Google Ventures, so the spin-out company for Google to do with commercialization. They developed this thing that many of you will have heard of called Design Sprints. So this was an in-person 5-day event to really nail down what is the problem, explore all the solutions, pick one, prototype it. Actually, we picked 2, prototype it in a day. And then on the Friday, we had real people testing it, and we all observed to see the reaction with real people. So that what I've tried to do in this toolkit is to say there are lots of these techniques out there that have been developed by other people, and we're not going to explain to you the nuts and bolts of all those methodologies. What I want to do is articulate what is unique about our approach that tailors those off-the-shelf methods. So that takes into account scientific data, all the uncertainty that comes with that and the complexity of translating scientific information to a wider audience. And also there's a little bit in here about what is unique about environmental data. So the other bits, that's probably enough to share for now, but the other bits are some templates and some resources like that. So it's not complete, it's a communal thing. It has initially started with the British Geological Survey, grown to include a bunch of people across the environmental research centres, but it doesn't need to stop there. It could go wider. So if you are interested in contributing, we're very open to that.
And I think initially, because it's our remit, we've said that it's environmental, but like I can imagine potentially like several versions of these toolkits or all blending into one for different domains, and then it's just tagged and filtered by domains if you want domain specific examples. So yeah, thank you, Carl. That's great. Has anyone got anything that they have seen in the post-it notes that they'd like to explore more at all? Or there was one that caught my eye. What did it say? I and lots of other people have reacted to it saying putting technical people on this task. And I think, yes, I agree with that. You almost need to be removed from it, which is quite difficult. And I particularly liked the post-it note where someone said about people, if they say they don't have a lot of time, just ask for 10 minutes and then they'll end up actually talking to you for an hour. I think that's a very, very good takeaway that we could learn from. So yeah, I like that one. Yeah, informal interactions, yeah, definitely agree. What else have we got on here? What's missing? Yeah, buy-in from senior leaders, I think is something that we struggle with, and I think we're slowly moving towards that way where it's starting to get embedded, where we'll talk about the roadmap things in the future, but it definitely feels like a slow process, and I think the things that we've been doing and putting together, like we're building on Carl's team's work. So I don't know, Carl, how long has your team been doing this within your research centre? And it's only now filtering out to other like partner organisations, and we're trying to learn from you, and we're trying to do it.
I think we've been going about 9 years, 9 years.
Yeah. Whereas in the data centres, we've only really been doing this for what, the last 2 years, maybe? Like dedicated, trying to do it sort of. Or at least a coordinated approach, maybe. We've been doing it, but not necessarily in the most coordinated way. Okay, I am looking at the time and trying to work out how much time we've got left. We've got another 40 minutes. So I reckon if we move on to the next activity, which is the challenges and skills gaps activity. So again, there's a few polls for you to click on. Some questions for word cloud. So how confident are you that you and your colleagues understand user needs? So yeah, add in a couple of words there would be great. And then you can, it does say submit a word. I wonder if it's going to let you do, oh no, it is letting you do multiple. That's all good. Shout if you can't do it, or chuck it in the chat if you can't write in whatever you want to try in. And then the next one is name a tension you experience when trying to understand user needs. And then the final poll is which of these is your biggest barrier to understanding user needs? Choose your top three. And again, there's a couple of prompt questions about what training or support would help you overcome some of these barriers, and what skills do you think are missing within your organisation? Depends on the project. I think I'd say that too for our work. I'd also say not confident with some of our work too. So yeah, I don't want people to come away from this session and you feel like, oh gosh, I've got no idea about this. There seems to be so many people in this room who know exactly what they're talking about, and their colleagues are doing all of these great things. I think it's the whole point of this is to understand what that landscape is looking like and where we can share good practice. and share experiences and maybe share things that haven't gone so well and why they haven't gone so well. So yeah, please don't worry if you are on the you're not confident that people know what it means, because I think I would definitely say that for some of our work. Um, I'm going to set another 5-minute timer again, so I remember to stop talking whilst you're trying to focus. I'll mute myself.
May I share an experience which I don't know where to write?
Of course. Thank you.
That for me, meeting the users is more important even for for convincing them or for getting them out of the way than for the development itself. Because my experience that I whenever developed a policy and met some users, but not all of them. And when I arrived to the executive meeting, and everyone was throwing at me plenty of problems. Oh, this is not going to work because of that. Have you considered that? Have you considered that? Have you considered that? Which I would have answered all of them, but you don't get a single chance to talk to them because, you're the small guy, there's big guy, and they're talking. So it's really also about convincing them because when you arrive with the final product, which already have all the answers, uh, you cannot convince them that it has them because for them who don't know it, they are facing too many problems. So you need to hear them problem at the beginning, and then they will start to believe them that your product answers the problem. But at the end, it's very too late.
Mm. Mm. I can see Carl nodding. Carl, is there anything you want to add to that?
I'm not sure if it's triggered a thought, but whether this thought is quite what you want to hear, I don't know. But I think testimony, like first-hand observations about real users' experiences, are really, really powerful. Whether the leaders are, whatever level above you, they will find it very difficult to deny the experience reported by a real end user. So we've had experiences where we've used direct quotes. Maybe you interview somebody and you record it, and then being able to play back that message. This is what real people are saying. Is very hard to argue with. And in one European project, there was a data portal that had been put together, and you had very, very forceful project managers in that really had a clear idea about what they thought was needed. And almost no amount of argument in a meeting was really having much traction. The thing that changed it was I set up some interviews. I asked them as the leaders to identify who they believe the most archetypal users were, and I wanted them to be present in the interview, but basically say nothing. They were not allowed to interrupt and show the person what was needed. So we gave them a scenario. Imagine you are doing this task. Here is the start. Now we're going to observe you, and I want you to talk out loud and narrate what you're doing. And what we found was, in this case, 3 out of the first 4 users went wrong on the first step. They never got to the second step. They went, they clicked the wrong link, or they just sat there frustrated. And I know the project manager that was virtually by the side of me wanted to say, no, click that, and then you'll be okay. But the point was, they're not clicking that. They're not going to. And these are the people that represent your target audience. So them witnessing it firsthand really is very, very powerful.
I must say that's a thing I like to do too. When I have a demonstration with some people, test users, I don't share my screen. I ask them to share their screen and explain them what they should, maybe give them rough instruction of what they could do and see how it goes. Yeah, that's very useful.
Interesting.
I mean, just as a sort of drawing in one of the other post-it notes, or maybe there were a few that were talking about it's difficult to quickly get to a plan or to understand what users really need. So I'm sure many of you have used prototypes. We've gone a little bit more extreme on that because sometimes, even though it's much quicker to create a mocked up prototype than it is the real thing, it can still take days and weeks and whatever. So one of the things we've done is it's almost like creating the press release. What's the story you're trying to tell right at the end of this? As if you were doing some sort of announcement of what you have achieved at the end of the project. Do that really early on and then test how people respond to that. And one of the ways we did it was A, as a press release, like literally how you would do a one-page sales pitch. But B, we created a fake homepage for this new service. So there's no functionality at all. It's literally just an image, but it is enough to put in front of somebody and say, what do you expect will happen when you click that? And just get them to talk through it. And if nothing else, you will find out what they are thinking, but also which of the things that you've put there are more attractive and less attractive.
Because I think it gives people like that concrete example, don't they? So then they're really like, no, I don't want that. So,
I mean, a lot of what we're doing is sort of intangible for a long time. So anything you can do to make it more relatable, more tangible, is it's. So somebody else put a comment about, which I totally agree with. No amount of work up front is a substitute for monitoring what happens when it goes live. But if you can fake it and try and bring forward that sense of, oh, this is really coming, this is going to be real, because while ever it's still a long way away, people don't fully engage. They're more likely to either tell you the same frustrations they've always had, independent of the thing you're talking about, or they're going to nod politely and say, what a good job you're doing. So you kind of got to force them into thinking it's real.
thanks, Carl. Yui, I could see you sort of putting your hand up. Did you want to jump in with anything?
Yeah, so I just wanted to answer to Julian. So we do also the same during sorry when we are doing trainings, we are doing the same. So we also don't show anything to the end users and let them first try and possibly watch them what they are doing and to figure out what they are actually doing wrong. That's very important. And the second thing is, if we fix it, I think sometimes it's also good to have multiple ways to get to the goal. So there should not be a single button that the user must press because all the users are different. There should be different ways to do the same, and that should be thought about when developing a system.
Lots of nods. I'm sure people who don't have their screen on are nodding too. Amy, you've got your hand up. Did you want to jump in?
Hi, I'm Amy Hodge from Stanford, by the way, Stanford University. And I just wanted to react to just a little comment and that in what you just said, away, which was about how you can see when the users are doing something wrong. I'd like to adjust that framing. The user isn't doing anything wrong. The app is poorly developed. Like the interface is not right. You have to figure out what people's natural behaviors and inclinations are with respect to the software that you're building, so that you can, do things that make sense to them. So it's really hard because I work on software development, and you spend a lot of time, and you want to say, no, the proper flow through this is, what we have designed as the proper flow through this application. This is the user journey. These are the steps. But in the end, it doesn't matter if they can't figure it out, as you said. So you have to figure out how to make it work for them, and so it's anyway. I just wanted to present that.
I like
So
that,
it's
Amy,
like
and I
reframing of that.
Yeah, I really like the subtle reframing, and I think a lot of the difficulties that come around this is actually the the communication and the translation between like understanding what those needs are and how that translates into something that is built in a technical way. And I think one of the key things that I think my role and others who do this type of work is you're trying to be that translation layer. So you're trying to understand these two different pieces and trying to connect it and trying to make it better and improve things. So yeah, I really like that
Yeah. And if
way
I
that
can
you
just,
framed out.
yeah, if I can just follow up briefly to say that um, the other thing that we try very much to do, although we aren't like a strictly um, strict agile shop where we are, and we have a huge software development group at Stanford University Libraries, but we do try to be agile, and so it is really important to get mock-ups and things out to users as soon as possible. And we're in a development work cycle right now on one of the projects I'm in charge of, and we've done a ton of user testing during the work cycle so that we could come back and make changes while this, because our software engineers work on many different projects, so we only get a dedicated periods of time occasionally on an individual project. So we need to make changes now while we can. But the idea is not to commit too hard to anything until the users have seen it, really. And so until you can get feedback and then keep getting feedback and keep changing it until, like never. Somebody mentioned something final, and I would never call anything of ours ever final because
Nothing's ever final.
we're constantly evaluating whether it continues to meet user needs. User needs change, and so none of our projects are ever finished, ever. So
Thanks,
I'll shut up now. Sorry.
No, it's great. Thank you. I really like Jan's comment in the chat saying that oh, it's moved, hang on. But eventually the solution is often a compromised version of user needs due to all various valid considerations. And I think it's really hard knowing how to balance all of those different tensions. So like in the slides that Monica showed, the business needs and the technical needs and the user needs, and I think it's how can we lift up those user needs? Because ultimately everything that we do is meant to be for the user, isn't it? So that should be first and foremost, you'd hope, the main driver, but it so often isn't the priority and it isn't seen as the most important thing. So how do we change that focus for people when it's been our cultural way of working for however long, where we've kind of just skimmed over and been like, oh, it's good enough. Great. Yes, budgetary considerations, very much so. Cool. Okay. I'm gonna reshare my screen so you can follow where I am. And there's loads of things on here. I think we've covered quite a lot, and I'm very aware of time. I don't want us to run out, so we can always come back to this in the main discussion. So if we skip on to the next kind of mini activity. So this one is about embedding user needs into roadmaps. So Monica touched on this, but we've been doing some work recently trying to think of ways that we can strategically make sure that the understanding about user needs that we gather from different various projects forms a more coherent picture, which is then embedded into our roadmaps going forwards. So we were just interested to know whether other people had had any experience in this area, or whether it's been easy or difficult, or how do you, prioritize these conflicting needs across the team. So I think we just touched upon that, where we were talking about all of these different constraints, meaning that the final solution is maybe a compromise version. So how do you deal with that? How does that actually look? And if you don't feel like you're dealing with it, then that's fine too. It's all good information to have. So again, I'm going to set another 5-minute timer, and then after that we will wrap up, and then do a couple of final polls about whether we want to continue this discussion in the future. So I'll set the timer now and be quiet for a bit. Thank you. I can feel the energy draining in the room. I promise we'll be finished in less than 10 minutes. Um, but also, this is probably the hardest one that we've got on here, so I'm not surprised that we've got less input into it because it is a tricky one. I think a few things jumped out at me from this one was the long-term vision when funding is mostly on a project and time-bound amount of money. We definitely struggle with that, and it's trying to work out how to build things on top of each other. So yeah, completely agree with that one. Time, not enough time. I also really like this deprioritizing when needing. So we never know how to turn things off, whether they're because yeah, stop doing things. Stopping doing things, I think, is the hardest thing. And there's some great examples in here of some does well. I really liked this one about framing concrete milestones in terms of the value that they add for users. So really making it really clear from the start. So yeah, a lot about the framing and the communication of that. Um, love this sticker, by the way. Don't know how you did that, but very clever, whoever worked that out. So yeah, putting in place data stewards within departments as well as centrally, and then allocating some budget to bring those together through community management, I think is a really important one. So it's great that you think that your organisation does this well. I'd love to know what organisation that was so we could learn from it, because I think that's definitely what we're trying to do more of. Amazing. Anything else jumping out at anyone that you want to talk on? Everyone wants to do surveys and no one wants to check the results of existing surveys. Do you even know where the results are of your existing surveys? Because I don't know where lots of the results of our surveys have gone from the past. So, yeah, keeping track of what we've done in previous years and what we can reuse is definitely a tricky one. Cool. There's something in the chat. Interactive emoji, love it. Thank you. I shall look at those. Amazing. Anyone want to say anything? Kyle, is there anything you want to add to this quickly before I move on, or are you happy?
At the risk of going rogue, I've stuck some thoughts above the open discussion, just
Have
additional
you?
things.
Lovely.
I didn't see a parking lot sort of
That's
area
fine.
for other
Make a
ideas.
parking lot. Go for it, Kyle.
Well, I'll leave it here for now, but it was just to highlight that there's a few other things that we've not really discussed, and if anyone wants to discuss them in the future, then by all means reach out via finding me online or through Poppy. But so we're using various tools which are not on the co-creation toolkit currently, but things like Figma for prototyping, making quite a lot of use recently of their AI element, Figma Make, so that we can very, very quickly create prototypes. We're using usability monitoring, so Hotjar, Microsoft Clarity, usability testing, Useby. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but there's a bunch of things that we haven't touched on, but the two I'll highlight are the true cost of maintenance and support. Too often we get funding for new shiny things and we don't support the fundamental operational service. But if it doesn't work well, people won't use it. And final thought is on the future of AI and how it is bound to address a bunch of our current user needs. Things like, I don't use the right language, the metadata that we use is not framed correctly. So large language models are going to be a game changer, but it is going to introduce new problems. What was I going to say? The visibility of the data providers in the answers that these machines are going to produce. How will people know what to trust? Will their need for an authoritative data source diminish because they're getting really convincing answers and that's good enough for the job? So there's a whole bunch of stuff around how AI is going to change the nature of user interfaces. And we can already see in the data, the number of people that are getting hold of data through AI solutions rather than a traditional website is growing and growing. So it's only going to be a growth area, that one. So yeah, sorry, a little bit of a tangent, but it seemed a group that was interested in all these things. So just shouting out.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think in this final slot, if there are things that have come up that you're particularly interested in collaborating with or talking about, then yeah, please feel free to add your name and maybe the specific topic area or the person that you want to speak to about it. Then that would be great because we can follow up on these things afterwards. So I'm very aware of time, so I'm not actually going to do this kind of key takeaway bits apart from to say I'm going to summarize this board and try and pull out key points from it. I can share those notes with you if you've added your name and name and email address into the shared notes document, so I can share that around and make sure I've not misinterpreted anything. If you are aware of any other RDA groups or any other external groups that you think would be maybe interested in this, if you could chuck some names into here, that would be very welcome. But yeah, I think the key outcome for me is that it's really positive that there seems to be an interest in this, and I think will be fruitful discussions, I'm sure, in the future. I think there's lots of things for us to think about, and yeah, really looking forward to exploring it more. So thank you all for being engaged and filling in my mirror board. I love a mirror board, but I know not everyone likes it. So I appreciate you putting all of your energy into it. So yeah, that's great. And then finally, if you could just fill in the final poll about whether you want to continue this discussion after the plenary, and how you think maybe that should look like. I know in RDA you can do interest groups or working groups and things like that. I'm very new to RDA, so is Monica and Carl and Jen. So if anyone's got any tips of what you think we should do or any guidance for that, then that would be great. I'm sure we can navigate it. But yeah, if anyone is willing or wanting to take this work forward with us, then we'd love to hear from you. And I think that's probably it. Yeah, any final questions in the last couple of minutes? Go for it. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think so. I'm on the RDA Technical Advisory Board, and I don't know if
Oh,
there's anyone
great.
else from RDA. So I suppose, I mean, it would be really interesting to know if people are interested in a follow-up session in the London plenary, if people will be there in person. And then I guess it's a question of identifying, is there anything we could take to an interest group? Are there strands of work, 3 points or something that could then be developed in the next couple of years, or even a working group where we fast track some toolkit or pool our resources. But thanks for the initiative. I found it really interesting for my context anyway. I'd be interested in
Amazing.
attending. Thanks a lot.
No, thank you. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. It's been really interesting. And yeah, we might pick your brains about what you think the next best direction is for this. So yeah, it'd be great. Cool. Any final questions or comments from anyone? We can stick around for another 5 minutes or so, but if not, you can finish 5 minutes early. Go make a cup of tea or coffee. Thank you so much, everyone.